Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Garranto Expert Talk. This is new initiative from Garranto to get expert advice on future of the jobs and skills. Today's topic is the top skill for jobs in Singapore AI. I would request Mr. Piyush Sharma to take it forward.
Thank you very much, Sheena. I appreciate it. So, a brief introduction about me. God was kind, and I was fortunate to mark out a life of success as CEO of a few public listed multi-billion dollar organizations in about 25 years of my corporate career. And over the last about 4 or 5 years, I have had my one finger on the pulse of academia. This is where I have been engaged with some of the world's top institutions like UCLA Anderson, like Stanford, IIT Delhi, Ashoka University, and ISB. I have been engaged with a few Fortune 500 companies and in general in the global AI and technology startup ecosystems where organizations and governments call upon me for insights and consulting for their most important AI related strategic decisions. But it is with these corporate training or academic outings bit which kind of sees me engaging with global leaders and ignited minds like you. So I'm so excited and happy to be able to share with you, both as a practitioner and as a scholar, some of the best learnings of my journey with the most exciting subject of AI. And here is wishing us a great journey together. Other than me, I'm going to be using the expertise of a few technology influencers, industry personalities, authors, thinkers, practitioners, and perhaps it will come in handy to have some advice articulated from these people on learning and starting a career about AI. There are some curated video resources and other resources which also I will be referring you guys to, but I know that mostly when people have been coming to my master classes, either you guys are practitioners, which means you're looking at seeking analytics and AI fluency, or some of you guys are typically orchestrators who are looking to bridge that technical and business expertise. And sometimes you guys are change agents who are committed to transforming the future. Whatever hat that you're wearing, I hope that this session does kind of take you into a world and into an introduction which is exciting and engaging for you. So first things first, the AI apocalypse, as we all realize, is all around us.
AI is accelerating growth in virtually every field. It's an ultimate disruptor.
Computer science is making inroads to every academic discipline and every aspect of our lives.
The economy and society is really demanding people who understand this.
Sorry.
AI is accelerating growth in virtually every field. It's an ultimate disruptor.
Computer science is making inroads to every academic discipline and every aspect of our lives.
The economy and society is really demanding people who understand this new domain of computing and artificial intelligence.
Our students recognize that computing is shaping the future, and they're pushing for an education that sets the foundation for it.
MIT is making a bold announcement today. MIT is announcing the creation of the Stephen A. Schwarzman College of Computing. That's a radical, bold move by MIT to adjust and prepare the students of today for the world of the future.
There is tremendous interest in understanding the ethical and societal implications of new technologies, and particularly the technologies.
So research institutes, top corporates, educational institutions, and states around the world are kind of competing and collaborating to get to the Holy Grail. May I request you guys, if you are able to participate in the poll, are you able to give the replies to question number 1? Is it possible? Sheena, is it possible to participate in this poll? Are you guys in a position to vote for the poll question number 1?
No, not it.
No.
Yeah.
So let me see. And now?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Please, so question number one, poll number one, requesting you guys to participate. I'm waiting. Girish, are you able to do it?
Yeah, I can able to do. Yeah.
But I have no responses registered till now.
I'm still doing it because I'm using my iPad. Uh, it came on top of the question. I'm really very.
Okay, requesting the rest of the people also, if you're able to see the question number one on the poll, if you're able to answer that question, I'll appreciate it. The pace of technology adoption expected to remain unabated. Do you think AI figures amongst those on top, true or false? Looks like polls may not be working. Right, Girish?
It's working. Still, you already asked 10 questions, right? I'm in the
No,
8
only
now.
question one. Only question one I want.
Oh, only question. Oh, so sorry. One question, I think we
I
can't
should
able
have
to submit.
clarified. Question number one, if you guys have given the answer.
It is just to tick the answer, right? Not to submit.
Yeah, now I get the answer. So somebody at least has given the first answer. Yeah, go ahead. In question number one, do you think it is true or false? That's the only answer that I'm looking for right now. Not the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Only question number one.
But if I select only question number one, I can't able to submit. I need to complete all 10 questions.
Leave this one. The important thing to note here is I'm ending this poll. Let me see if sharing results will only show one person, right? Right, I guess so. Right now it seems not to be working, so we will leave that at that. The important thing to note is that according to the World Economic Forum and the Future of Jobs 2020 report, the pace of technology adoption is expected to remain unabated and may actually accelerate in some areas. The important thing for us to note is that the adoption of cloud computing, big data, and AI are what remain the high priorities for business leaders. And this is, of course, following a trend that was established in the previous years. So AI is, of course, right on top, as you would notice. And very, very clearly, there has been an exponential, some 2.1x for AI startups versus incremental 1.3x growth for all startups. There is a similar playbook for VC funding, where there is a 4.5x for AI VC funding versus 2.08 for all. So what we are realizing is that AI startups are registering exponential growth, and so is the VC funding for them. Now, how many of you guys, if at all, know who Rembrandt is? People who may not have attended my sessions before, do you guys know who Rembrandt is? So I'm taking you guys back to the 17th century Renaissance period, and this is Rembrandt was one of the most famous Dutch draftsman, painter, printmaker, and innovative and prolific master is what he's been called in the three media, and he's been acknowledged as one of the greatest visual artists in the history of art, and most importantly in the Dutch art history. But why are we talking about him? So let's take a dive into Rembrandt's world for a moment.
One of Rembrandt's great achievements was to portray human emotions in a much more convincing way than artists had before him, and in many ways for all time.
At ING, we believe in the power of innovation, what it can mean to people. We want to bring this innovative spirit to our sponsorship of Dutch art and culture. We knew that for this challenge, we needed to team up with experts from various fields to make this come to life.
We're using a lot of data to improve business life. But we haven't been using data that much in a way that touches the human soul. You could say that we use technology and data like Rembrandt used his paints and his brushes to create something new.
The first step was to study the works of Rembrandt in order to create an extensive database. We gathered the data from his collection of paintings from many different sources, including 3D scans and upscale images using a deep learning algorithm. Because a significant percentage of Rembrandt paintings were portraits, we analyzed the demography of the faces in these paintings, looking at factors like gender, age, and head direction. The data led us to the conclusion that the subject should be a portrait of a Caucasian male with facial hair between 30 and 40 years old, in dark clothing with a collar, wearing a hat, and facing to the right. From there, we started to extract features only with faces that were related to that specific profile.
And we had to create a whole painting from just data. And we used statistical analysis and various algorithms to extract the features that make Rembrandt Rembrandt.
We took parts of the face and we started to compare them. And then, based on this, we're able to create a typical Rembrandt eye or nose or mouth or ear. After generating the features, we were focusing on the face proportions. We used an algorithm that can detect over 60 points in a painting. We were able to align the faces and to estimate the distance between the eyes, the nose, and the mouth and the ears.
A painting is not a 2D picture. It's 3D. You can see the canvas, you can see the process, and that's what makes the painting come alive. A hive map is essential to make the painting a painting.
We incorporated the height map into the painting and printed on a 3D printer that uses a special paint-based UV ink. It printed many layers, one on top of the other, which resulted in the height and texture of the final painting.
It's sometimes a magical moment to see a painting for the first time. Even if it's computer generated, for me it is something special. I would have believed if I saw it in a museum that it would have been a real Rembrandt, just one I haven't seen before.
It will be interesting to see Rembrandt looking at it. He will be happy that there are people trying to understand him and trying to create something out of that. So I think he will be happy.
The next Rembrandt makes you think about where innovation can take us. What's next?
So blurring the boundaries between the art and technology, they set out on a challenge to see if the great master can be brought back to life to create a new painting. So bricks or bouquets, thorns and flowers, praise and hate, you decide. Now, I don't know if you guys can quickly have in your head some kind of estimate, because we're not going to be running with executing polling today because polling seems to be encountering some problems. But the important thing here to note is that according to the Milken Institute and Future of Work Insights for 2021 and beyond, with automation comes displacement. And this is a Brookings Institution analysis that predicts that 60% of jobs will face medium to high exposure to automation. So that's the kind of world that we are now going to be heading into, right? Now, imagine in your head the answer to this question. And this is a LinkedIn research where research indicates that a growing number of people are making career changes to entirely new occupations. This is according to LinkedIn data gathered over the past 5 years. Some 50% of career shifts into data and artificial intelligence have actually come in from different fields. So C here is the correct answer. Okay. And while typically we would think in our heads, I have never done technology, I have never done AI, I do not know machine learning, I do not understand these new emerging age technologies, I'm 40 plus, I'm 35 plus, I'm in the middle of my career. The reality is that data from Coursera suggests that individuals could start gaining the top 10 skills for each emerging profession in skills in AI, data, and artificial intelligence in as low as 2 to 3 months. Yes. So D there is the correct answer. Coming back to what we were looking at earlier, which is Rembrandt's world. pioneering digitally scanned images of Russell Kirsch's. The person that you see on your screen is Russell Kirsch. This is 6 decades after the world's first digital image. The year 1957 is when he actually took an image of his son Walden, and he was able to scan it, right? This is in a 176 by 176 pixels. This is baby Walden Kirsch picture, which of course has gone on to become the first picture which was ever to be scanned, the first image of the son Walden in 1957 through his invention of world's first digital scanner. And this is what led to the concept and the development of something called digitization, right? Today we are all talking about the digital world, the digital ecosystems, but in reality, digital ecosystems actually owe their existence to something that Russell Kirsch did way back 6 7 decades earlier. And this is what has led to conversion of any product, any service, anything into the binary system of a 0 and 1, which can then be replicated and which can then be transmitted at almost incremental or zero costs around the world, right? And that is what forms the basis for what we're going to be talking today in a big way. But before we get there, once again, one of the first large use cases has been that of the world's largest unicorn, which is Alipay, which is of course a part of Ant Financial. Ant Financial in turn is part of Chinese commerce and e-commerce and retail services multinational giant Alibaba Group. So 2016 is when they launched, and that is how they have taken off in China. The important thing is that through digital learning, AI can take the same data to enlarge the scope of services across several new market opportunities at zero marginal cost. What I just talked about through digitization, thus leading to a digital domino effect. And Ant Financial is one firm that uses AI across all its operations. So an AI factory is what actually is at the heart of all modern enterprises. And to the extent that they deal with data, with algorithms, with software, with computation, all AI factories look the same, whether it is a fintech company, a social media company, or a content streaming company. So let's get introduced to the concept of this thing called the AI factory. And this is where it needs to be understood that the Ant Financial ecosystem that you see here, which is across dining, gaming, credit, medical, retail, wherever there is a need for money, there is Ant Financial, right? And this is what makes Ant Financial the world's most valuable unicorn. So let's not, and this is where the whole thing from a multi-sided platform model needs to be understood. And I'll be speaking about platform models in a while, but notice the increase of the scope of services that is shown here. So algorithms, network effects, which means I have this pen in my hand, right? And historically in traditional businesses, the value of this pen would remain the same, whether I only have it in the world or whether a million odd people have it in the world. But the beauty of modern platform-based businesses is that the more the number of users, the greater is the value of my pen. So if you're looking at a ride hailing kind of situation, which is once again a platform business, the more the number of ride takers, the more is the number of cab providers, right? The more the number of drivers, the more is the number of ride takers, right? So if all 100 of us have this pen, the value does increase. This is the business of algorithms, and this is the business of network effects. So Ant Financial, as I said, uses AI. What does that mean? It uses data, and it is able to use the principles of zero marginal cost. As it is, a 1 billion transactions is something that is not humanly possible to be done. And that is Satya Nadella for you when he says, AI is going to shape all that we do. So what is AI? Any one of you guys, what is AI? You guys know what AI is? Do you have a sense? Anything that you guys would like to speak about as far as AI is concerned? Anyone? So let's talk about something called the human intelligence, right? Human intelligence typically manifests itself across visual perception. I'm able to see. Speech recognition. I can hear you. I can recognize that this speech belongs to Ken Lo. This speech belongs to Girish. This speech belongs to Marilu, right? I am in intelligence enables me to do something called decision making, and intelligence also enables me to translate between various languages. So there is visual perception, there is speech recognition, there is decision making, and there is the ability to translate between languages, right? That is what the crux of human intelligence is all about. Now, if computer systems do that, we call it AI. Examples of weak AI, something called weak artificial intelligence, abounds in search applications. So in Google search, in map applications, once again, Google Maps, voice assistants, whether you have Siri or you have Cortana or you have any others, right? And in chatbots. And something called strong AI is what refers to machines that can think and act in a way that matches or surpasses human intelligence. Does strong AI exist? Hell no. It does exist. It exists only in fiction. It exists in Hollywood movies out there, but in reality, no, it does not exist. So, what do you think are the drivers of AI? There are three key drivers of AI. Why is AI today the key to everything, and why is AI actually in a revolution kind of situation? Because you have something called data, and yet more data. Also, you have greater access to data. So perhaps we produced more data in the last 2 years than we've done across the 200,000 odd years of human existence. So one, you have more data. Two, you have cheap and more computing power, which means you're able to undertake what would be called on-demand cloud computing. And third, you have advanced algorithms. What are algos? Algos are basically software programming. So you today in a position where you've reached in the last about 50 odd years of software programming evolution, a situation where you're able to program computers to an extent where they can conduct multi-billion transactions in less than a fraction of a second, right? Those kind of billion and trillion kind of calculations is what is enabled. So these three terms are often used interchangeably. There is AI, there is ML, there is deep learning. But does anyone know what the three refers to, and what is the difference between artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning? So artificial intelligence is the concept of creating smart, intelligent machines, right? Alan Turing, 1940, is the person who's credited with coming out with the concept of artificial intelligence. Then there is machine learning. Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence that helps you to build AI-driven applications. And then there is something called deep learning, which once again is a subset of machine learning that uses vast volumes of data and complex algorithms to train a model. So AI basically began with the goal of teaching machines to act like humans through programming. Machine learning is what brought teaching machines to learn from training data created by humans. So the more the data, the more is machine learning enabled. And finally, with deep learning comes something called neural networks. Neural of the brain. This is what emulates the learning process in the human brain, and this is what is used to teach machines. So is anyone able to tell me what is the difference between automation and AI? So automation is a kind of machine programmed to carry out a routine job. A routine job is what automation does. So you can undertake the production of this automobile over and over again, and every day my factory can produce 108 fresh automobiles. Routine job, right? But AI is for non-repetitive tasks. So while automation is for repetitive tasks based on commands and rules, AI can have interaction with humans, and it learns from past experiences and compares the situation and then works according to it. So that is the core difference between AI and automation. Now, let's talk about the implications on business. So I'm going to be taking you guys back to the year 1995. And 1995, the top 15 technology and internet companies of the world between them had a combined valuation of something like a $16.5 billion. It was considered a whopping valuation at that time. Fast forward to 20 years ahead, 2015, the top 15 technology and internet companies of the world between them had a combined valuation of $3 trillion. From $16.5 billion to $3 trillion, we obviously not talking inflation adjustment here. something drastic has happened to the world. And that something drastic is that the world has realized the power of something called the platform business models. You show me one successful company of the world, and I would show you a platform business model at play. Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, the world's top big tech companies, and Alibaba, Tencent, WeChat, Uber, Airbnb, all of these companies are platform-based business models, which means unlike the business models of the past, where you had a traditional pipeline, the producer on one side, the consumer on the other side, and something called the middleman in between, you have now a platform owner. Imagine a Facebook in the center. There is the consumers, which is you and me. There are the advertisers who are here. There are the publishers, and there are the developers. But the platform owner is at the center, right? And this is what has led to a new world. So think in your head, do you think financial industry, services industry is affected or not affected by AI?
Is affected by AI.
Very well, thank you. Girish, appreciate that. Yes, Girish is right. The patterns of technological adoption vary according to industry, and artificial intelligence is finding the most broad adaptation amongst the digital information and communications, financial services, healthcare, and transportation industries. So that is, of course, data that comes from Coursera. So let us try and arrive at the new rules. This digital connectivity is what is leading to something called network evolution, which is resulting in, once again, something called hub formation. So there is perpetual disruption, which is leading to the VUCA world: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. There is no decoupling in this connected world, so everyone is impacted. I remember the years 2007-8. We in the eastern part of the world would thrive in saying, recession is out there in the US and Europe, but we are India and we are China, and there is no recession out here. In today's world, butterfly flutters its wings in Brazil, and there is an earthquake in China, and the entire financial system around the world comes crashing down. So in this world, there is complete coupling of this new connected world. So everyone really is impacted. The important thing is, only when patterns are broken can new rules emerge. And this is what Marcel Proust said. And this is where we need to become aware of something called the big picture. The big picture is changing. There is systemic change. So Moore's law taught us that technology is almost always surpassing the capabilities of humans. It is Metcalfe's law which told us that, which talked about connectivity and the power of networks. And there is Barbasi's law which talks about network evolution leading to hub formation. So this constant improvement is what is driving the VUCA world: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which is what is leading to turbulence. In this connected world, there is no decoupling and everyone is impacted. There is universality, which means Google, which started out as a search engine, is today trying to become an e-commerce company. And an Amazon, which started out as a pure play e-commerce company, is today challenging Google's supremacy as a search giant. Facebook has launched something called Facebook Shops, which is Facebook's entry into the world of e-commerce. And there is this recombination, there is this convergence. So most valuable technology companies of the world are today looking at hub formation, which is where AI is helping them create also, unfortunately, something called bias at scale. So there are implications for privacy, for bias, for cybersecurity, for inclusiveness, for openness, and the issue of digital ethics is what is coming into being. My parting note is that we need to become aware that reinventing the firm around data, around analytics, and around AI can help remove traditional constraints on scale, scope, and learning. These were the three key attributes that traditional organizations, that traditional businesses had. And these are the ones that have restricted business growth for hundreds of years. So when these traditional operating constraints are removed, strategy becomes a whole new game, one whose rules and likely outcomes, I hope today's brief presentation made clear. So in this algorithmic world, nothing is an original anymore. AI-enabled digital transformation and platform revolution is disrupting industries everywhere, and adapting quickly to change to kind of embrace digital and becoming an active part of the ecosystem is essential. Collaborative co-creation is the name of the game, and which is what is enabling unleashing the power of networks and communities to drive digital transformation. My point is that it was Charles Darwin who told us about the theory of evolution. And he said the winner is not the strongest or the most intelligent, but sooner or later, the one who wins is the one who can adapt to the change. So any company today, that is wanting to transform from a legacy business to a new age digital transformation, digitally transformed business, right, is basically talking about converting into a platform based business model. Examples are abounding. There is GE, a company which historically was a hitherto legacy owned company, right? So one has to look at becoming an active part of the ecosystem and find one's bearing and not be left out. This is where one has, as an organization and as individuals, we have to learn how to use the power of networks and communities to drive disruption and be a part of disruption and drive digital transformation. Things are very clearly changing. There are issues in all of this related to privacy, related to personal data, related to all kinds of new age things that we need to become aware of. So Industrial Revolution 4, which is the fusion of technologies across physical, digital, and biological spaces, is what is allowing reinventing the firm around data, connectivity, analytics, and AI. And this is what removes conventional limitations of scale, scope, and learning, thereby making strategy a new game. So AI combined with increased connectivity, computing, and data is the kosher game changer, and now is the right time to board the AI bus. Thank you for your patience. I'm up for questions, comments, observations, doubts. The questions can take any form. It does not have to be restricted to what we discussed. Anything that you guys may have, happy to discuss it. Questions, comments, observations, feedback, reflections, experiences to share. Maybe you guys are already having your organizations implement some of these things.
Yeah, I want to make a recent, you have followed my post. I think recently we have collaborated with one of the company called AR/VR solution. We are morely adopting on the AI based tool. So I think the adoption is very high in the construction industry right now, and my experience in the energy, basically most of the platforms nowadays, the digital twinning technology, which is the again AI based, is a mandatory now. I call it, it's a mandatory. Yeah. So it's a closed loop system. I think the energy optimization, we are getting almost the realistic figures. Like if we say 14% of savings, at least we will get 13.5% with the platform. So that is the accuracy level which AI adoption.
Very well. Very well. Thank you very much, Girish, for sharing that. And I do remember that even in the main session that we had done. So I have definitive intentions of involving you in one of these sessions at least, and benefit from the complete thing. And perhaps you will need about 30 odd minutes to really at least be able to give a insightful peep into what exactly is the real project use case out there in Singapore, right?
Yeah, yeah. I already prepared few use cases. I'm in discussion with Sriman, which one we can pitch into your class. Yeah. whether we are here, and also I invited a few other new startups in Singapore to give their perspective as well in the water monitoring.
Very well.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
perhaps
think in the next class you can see with our use cases, real
so
use cases.
it is actually on the next weekend, and if there seem to be no question right now, are there any other questions? Thank you, Girish. Thank you very much for that. Look forward to your active engagement and our collaboration. Okay, no questions. So let me quickly give you guys a peep into what this course that Girish is referring to is about. And this is on the next weekend, which is, I think, 22nd and 23rd of January. So already almost over 100 odd people have benefited from this course, which is now accredited by Monetary Authority of Singapore's IBF. And this course is what is designed to help us decode the mystery of artificial intelligence and its business applications. I would say the super takeaways from this course are: number one, mastering of AI concepts and workflows, which includes machine learning, deep learning, performance metrics, the ability to evaluate the AI trends and career opportunities, which I'm going to be speaking briefly about as a part of what we do in this course, as also describe how AI impacts business. So net, the course outcomes are: one, understand what is AI, its applications, use cases, and how it is transforming our lives. Be able to explain terms like machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, what we briefly only today touched upon. Describe several issues and ethical concerns surrounding AI. Why is AI not working right now? It's not the same way in which we were able to see, touch, and feel when internet happened to us. It's not the same way in which when computerization happened to us, we were able to see, touch, and feel. Or perhaps we are seeing, touching, and feeling, but not realizing that it is AI at play. So we'll also get to see AI in action with a use case that we develop as a project in the class. So those are basically the way in which we get into this. But besides the other stuff, you will also be exposed. A participant is also exposed to various issues and concerns. And this is where the course does not require any programming or computer science expertise and is actually designed to introduce the basics of AI to anyone, whether or not you have a technical background. The important thing to note is that this particular course does not include any hands-on technical training. But this course does have a bias. While we are passionate about data analytics, about machine learning, about deep learning, the course acknowledges and respects us as complete human beings, also interested in finer things of life, be it politics, be it fashion, be it sports, be it movies, be it football. So yes, we do benefit from, let's say, insights drawn from, like you saw today, Rembrandt's world, the world of religion, literature, ancient world, modern world, right? The course follows this playbook, what I call as a technology business people playbook. So while data and technology are the ones which are dominating conversations around digital transformation, I think staying relevant requires an understanding of the people and the business models too. And hence the all important combination of technology, people, and business. That is what this course is about. I call this in the context of careers as something called the AI career gap, right? Which is where I try and bring in a focus on how even non-technical professionals can become more valuable in the market and more involved in AI projects and initiatives without ever learning to code. And for that, it's important for me to first provide my own AI story. Like I said, I've been a consultant. So a couple of years ago, I was with one of these top shots at one of the big tech companies. And in the open reception come pavilion area that we were there, I saw a couple of these, some hundreds of these machine engineers, machine learning engineers moving about here and there. And I said, wow, being a machine learning engineer isn't a bad career path these days. I made that comment, right? Now, my contact at this big tech company, he turned to me and said something that I will never forget. He said, those people are extremely sharp, Piyush, but the real opportunity goes to those who can use them. I'm roughly paraphrasing the reply. I don't remember it word for word, but I remember the general point. And I remember that response making an impression on me. So I want to be clear. My interviewee in this case wasn't downplaying the importance of AI technical and coding skills. He was very technically capable himself. What he was saying was that there is great value in directing strategic AI efforts, in achieving business outcomes, and knowing how and where to use the technical AI talent. And that made an impression on me. So I had two choices at my career stage, at my level, at my life cycle stage: either to become a developer myself or to focus on the strategic and conceptual side of AI. This is not coding, but strategy, AI adoption insights, and AI use cases. Now, this staying a business person at heart and learning enough about AI to talk with data scientists, but not trying to become one. So today I'm invited to speak about AI trends at UN, at World Economic Forum, and to help with AI strategy and AI adoption by some of these large multi-billion dollar enterprises. But I do believe 5 years from now, my story won't actually seem that unique. I think many non-technical professionals will actually ride the wave of AI transformation and become leaders and contributors to AI projects and initiatives. But that statement, the real opportunity goes to those who can use them, makes more sense now more than ever. And I would like to make an analogy between businesses that get left behind in AI disruption and careers that may get lost in AI disruption. And here is how the process breaks down for me in stages. And this is important to understand from a career point of view. A professional who learns the fundamentals of AI knowledge. What is it? What AI does, its basic use cases, what it takes to use it productively, right? This individual will be most likely the one who will be involved in early AI projects or strategy conversations at his or her company. At second level, a professional with experience strategizing about AI or helping with initial AI projects is the one who's likely to be involved in future strategy projects and other AI projects. At third level, these are the professionals who take an early interest and have become knowledgeable in AI, will be in a position to actually lead the most exciting and viable opportunities within their firm as AI becomes more and more critical. I refer to this important AI related knowledge for non-technical professionals as critical context. So in this course, what we do is we explore what critical context is and how professionals can actually wield it to their advantage. So three things the course focuses on, the three core areas that really matter. First is the conceptual understanding of AI, which is how AI works, right? Which means I should be able to look at a problem and have an intuition about the following questions. Is AI the right tool to apply to this problem? Do we have enough data and expertise to apply AI to this problem? Am I even aware of the basic AI terms and components, right? The second is the representative use cases. So while a conceptual understanding is the right foundation, it is important to be aware of a wide range of current AI applications within the sector. You are in fintech, you need to know. You are in energy sector, you need to know. You are in insurance, you need to know. Who are the AI vendors? Examine use cases from a different vantage points. What are the enterprise AI applications in your areas? What are the new capabilities being enabled? Which functions? Is it sales? Is it customer service? Is it compliance? Which is where new AI functionality can be applied, right? And the third important aspect is the how to knowledge about AI adoption, which means understanding and preparing for challenges. So AI buzzwords are common, but practical information about applying and adopting AI is rare. And this is where some of the crucial understandings need to come in terms of data infrastructure, in terms of team collaboration, in terms of measurement of AI projects results. This process knowledge is rare because applying AI is rare. How do you choose AI projects? How do you pick AI projects? How do you score and rank potential AI projects by ease of deployment, by alignment with strategic company goals? Okay, so any questions still here? Important and happy to address them. Questions, comments, observations, any experiences to share, reflections? Believe you me, if you have any professional or enterprise background or any subject matter expertise in your industry, you starting off much further ahead than I ever did. I had no experience in computer science, no ability to code, no enterprise experience, no work experience in large technology companies of the kind that I just talked about. I did, of course, get to lead some of those large companies, but in other businesses. I had no AI certificate programs, so not exactly a golden resume. And today I'm counted as an AI expert, and I know the kind of contribution and the kind of value add that I bring to the table. So this is the basic 12-part module that we use. We use the following rubric where we spend the whole course across those 12 large milestones, all modules having a mix of teaching, peer learning, other interactions. We break out rooms, we have those polls. We learn about emerging technologies, which is what technologies behind AI is all about. So in modules 2 to 6, these modules follow a non-technical framework overview of the technologies which are making AI-driven digital transformation an integral reality. The idea is to understand key technologies at the heart of creating new value. So this is the technology piece. The important thing to note is that technology does not disrupt. Business models do. So the participants also learn about ecosystems, platform business models, the concept of value creation, value capture, value extraction. Why platforms beat products? How have platforms revolutionized the world? The what and why of disruption, and what are legacy companies doing to cope? This is what is covered in sections 7, 8, and 9. And finally, where are people in this exciting and scary world? How to make sense of AI tools, technologies, processes, and their uses in business. What are the challenges, risks, security, data governance, bias, ethics, privacy issues that could affect the way people live, work, and behave? So the people, process, policy piece in digital transformation. That is what 10, 11, and 12 do. So the course, of course, covers the three aspects through a research cum practitioner lens perspective.
One of the things we learned from Google, we actually talked to the team at Google about this, is when they first started, what they did is they said, you're going to put in a keyword or two in the search engine, the very beginning, and I'm going to show you 10 links, and we think one of these 10 links will be useful. Look at the humility of the framing of the problem. It wasn't, you're going to say natural language, and I'm going to show you exactly the one link you wanted, right? So it's an explicit interaction where you tell it, this is what I want, and it answers to you. Look at Siri. When they launched, they started out with this kind of really big advertising with some of the best actors and actresses, setting your expectation that you could have a full-on conversation. And how did you feel about that? It kind of sucked. It didn't work as well, and it took time for them to get better. Alexa came in with the opposite framing. They're like, hey, here's this thing, just tell it, turn on the lights, or set a timer, play a song, and it'll do it. And then over time, it started growing skills. So look at the difference. So we tried to do the same thing, blend, hey, make it easy for people to explicitly say, okay, Eva, schedule the next meeting for Monday at 10 a.m. Thanks, Eva, right? Very explicit, and kind of do some implicit things where it's just doing things in the background. And this is just one of the really interesting problems when you're designing an AI product is dealing with the fact that people have unbounded expectations as consumers, and you got to bound it and over-deliver on that bounding so that you don't disappoint them.
So that's setting the user expectations for AI. So think in your head, what do you think is the right answer? The rise of artificial intelligence in recent years has kind of upended the entire traditional business model, and industries across the spectrum have all but jumped on this digital wagon. So this is according to a joint survey by Microsoft and IDC, and C is the correct answer here. 79% of jobs will be transformed and replaced according to this survey by AI in 2022. Now that's scary.
The observation that we started to make in the early part of last decade was, boy, we're going from those companies that are building software to make stakeholders more efficient to building new health systems and new education systems and new neobanks and whatnot, right? And why was that happening? And the reason that was happening was because by having platforms like Facebook, Amazon Web Services, iPhone, we had essentially started to have a way to organize content, community, commerce, now care online. And the act of doing that essentially became these closed loop product development exercises, because you could rent all aspects of scale that you needed. You could rent computing, you can rent manufacturing, distribution, consumer access. And so it all became about mass personalization. So if in the 20th century, we had scaled all of our systems, corporations, banks, power plants, hospitals, we were now starting to go from that mass production and mass scaling to mass personalization. So, managing your diabetes or teaching you in a personalized way on Khan Academy, or giving you your own kind of a financial management service online. So that's the trend that started to happen. Why was that possible? It was because we could have an implicit understanding of the consumer and their needs and have these product development loops. Well, guess what? That is, you went from if you remember, big data to machine learning to AI over the last 15 years. You started building this deep intelligence around people. And the thing we started observing is, well, those product development tactics were okay when you were building games and you were trying to influence people's engagement in games. When you start doing around healthcare, somebody's health, you can't, to your point earlier, move fast and break things. If you're teaching somebody, you can't just experiment with different features to see will they learn better or not. It's actually, it's somebody's educational journey. You can't play with that. And so how do you do that responsibly? That is what we started thinking about in the context of AI. I think AI is not a thing by itself to go invest in a lot of companies, and just like mobile isn't the thing. But using how you use AI and how are you accountable, transparent, and explainable in your approaches became a core focus for us, because that's what it was going to take to build responsible companies. And that is what led us to writing that book and sort of putting our frameworks out there around it.
Guess what? The correct answer is $22.6 billion by 2025, which is at a compounded annual growth rate of nearly 24% in fintech, right? We do cover as a part of the course a complete section dedicated on what is happening to AI in Singapore. All of the things that you see here is what we cover specifically.
One of the areas where we will focus more and invest more funds in is in resource-efficient AI. As a small country, our data sets are also small. So we need to better train our machines to learn from small but high-quality data sets. Our investment in AI R&D is not large relative to global investments in this field. But by focusing on where we can make the greatest impact, we can make every effort count.
Singapore has embarked on 5 AI programs since announcing its national AI strategy in 2019. Mr. Heng says 2 additional programs will be introduced to build on the good progress made so far. The first is in finance, which includes an AI platform known as Nova. This will help financial institutions assess companies' environmental impact and identify emerging risks.
Over the next 3 decades, an estimated $100 trillion of climate-aligned funding will be needed to achieve the Paris Agreement targets. Nova will better enable financial institutions to assess these investments and their associated risks and check against greenwashing.
The other new program is in the public sector. It'll look at using AI to analyze feedback received by government agencies and to improve job matching on the National Jobs Portal.
So we cover AI in Singapore, the ways to get involved, national AI projects, the organizations which are active, how is transformation happening in businesses with AI in Singapore, Singapore's overall AI ecosystem. So there is this research by Emeritus, which is 2021 Global Career Impact Survey, where they assess the effects of professional learning on the careers of some 2,200 professionals across 75 different countries. For your information, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and machine learning rank among the top most skills in demand. This is according to the new workplace survey from Emeritus. So this is LinkedIn for you, and they also are listing AI specialist to be the #1 job opportunity and skill in the Singapore area. And this is what we are finding. So companies, small and big, or are today leveraging technology to solve problems. These are typically the kind of careers that AI professionals, those who are on the technical side, are looking at making. We realize that the list of leading companies continues to be a very long one that pay top salaries to some of these AI professionals. But the good thing is that AI jobs are not only for the technical people to take. What I was describing earlier, it is as much for, if not as much, at least there do exist opportunities there out there for people who have humanities background, who have non-technical background, who have non-coding background.
Morning. Today's research day at Max Kelson. I'm excited. We've dedicated, or the ML team have dedicated Mondays to reading papers and looking up new ways of doing things. Give me a second. This gate. Keep the parties out. I'm not entirely sure what we'll be exploring. I think it'll be something to do with maybe reinforcement learning or PyTorch. Been really wanting to start learning PyTorch lately. But whatever it is, whatever we end up diving into, as long as the other tasks that we have to do are taken care of, like writing reports and working on client projects, we'll get into some research.
According to Brookings Institute, AI could affect work in nearly every occupational group. And what you just saw was opportunities and options related to AI as far as being a machine engineer is concerned, right? Machine learning engineer. But of all the technologies impacting business, the correct answer is B. The one that showed the biggest growth once again is AI. And this is according to Euromonitor International. So the most impactful technological advance for business in the coming 5 years, surpassing even cloud in this respect, right?
We live in a world where technology has advanced so that we can collect huge amounts of data. The human mind does not have the ability just to look at tables and tables of data and just draw some conclusions. So data science is a logical way of being able to identify the structures that are inherent in that data, understanding the business problem, doing the analytics, and then providing some sort of a solution. My name is Alina Corvello, and I'm a data scientist at Chevron. Data science is an interdisciplinary approach for extracting information out of data in order to make better decisions. The team of data scientists is a pretty diverse one. There are people that come from maybe the more traditional background, they have a statistics degree or computer science degree, but then there are people that come about of having a deep knowledge of the subject matter. Math is beautiful because the relationships and the way that it could be used to solve problems and all these different areas I always say that data science is about more than just data scientists. We're working with people to help answer their questions, give them information that we can from their data. That involves developing training materials, actually giving the training, and then perhaps working with people one-on-one to identify what they need to do to build their skills in that area. One of the things I like to do when I'm teaching is to take technical concepts from the class and then tie them to things that people might be more familiar with in their everyday lives. I use some examples from garment construction. There's a lot of engineering in creating a garment. You have a flat pattern and you've got to think of how to construct it in a three-dimensional way. Data science takes data and tries to find patterns in the data to answer questions. The data comes from a variety of sources. It could be from the incident investigation and reporting. It could be from reliability databases and inspection records, maintenance records, and then also operating data. The kind of problems that I work with are trying to affect or to improve process safety. And so that's helping us be more proactive rather than reactive. I'm excited about the future of data science at Chevron. It's gaining a lot of momentum. I think there's a lot of data and we're starting to get to dig into it and try to get some insights. And I'm really excited to see where it takes us.
We've done that. 79% of jobs expected to be transformed and replaced by AI.
My name is Tessa Lau. I'm Chief Robot Whisperer at Saviok. Saviok is a robotics company, and we're building autonomous robot helpers for the services industry. I went to Cornell for my undergrad. I got a bachelor's in applied physics and computer science. I really liked physics because it was about hands-on doing experiments and building things and making stuff real. Computer science was also really interesting because you could create stuff a lot faster on a computer. And so I went into computer science for my graduate studies. I went to University of Washington, where I studied artificial intelligence and human-computer interaction. I don't think of myself as a roboticist, even though that's what I do. The robot whispering for me is about making it so that the robots behave well in human environments. And it's not just about programming or engineering, it's about looking at those robots in context. The way he's being used is that the front desk receives a call from a guest room saying, I'd like to order a sandwich, or I forgot my toothbrush. And so they grab the item that they want to deliver, load it into the robot, type in the room number, and the robot will go off to the room automatically. Robotics actually change people's lives in a much deeper, fundamental way than software could, because robots are physical. They can actually move around in your world and do things for you. The robots that we were building, they can't replace a human because there's so much that a human can do that a robot can't. What they can do is the mundane stuff that no one wants to do anyway, like, run stuff up to a hotel room and then come back down. No one.
So we do cover some of these day in the life of a typical AI professional. We also talk about how to become an AI engineer, the kind of skills that are needed to be able to make the most of such an endeavor, and what are the kind of salaries and all of the issues that you see on your screen. We also do talk about what specific skills may be required, let's say, to become a machine learning expert. We look at covering some of these career opportunities that exist specifically in the Singapore ecosystem. These are advertised on, these are of course covered on the respective websites that you see at the top of all of these AI professionals. And finally, we do talk about some of these resources. So this is only a glimpse of what kind of resources in terms of reading. All of these are clickable links in terms of some of these working papers, chapters, blogs, watching some of these videos, webinars, tutorials, exploring organizations and institutions. All links are clickable, doing important work, then podcasts that we have, and some of the tools that enable you to click and see what all is possible to be explored. Hello, my name is Piyush Sharma, and I'm happy and excited to be sharing with you the much awaited Singapore launch of my globally recognized signature program on artificial intelligence for everyone. The program is an avant-garde Ivy League program. It is a foundation course for everyone seeking AI fluency. The state-of-the-art curriculum design offers an optimum mix of theory and practice, what I call as AI in action. We follow an immersive delivery model. The program takes place across curated, interactive, live discussions with discussions of case studies from Harvard. Further, the program leverages an extensive network of AI mentors to help you contextualize and apply your learning. Collaborative learning is an integral part of this exclusive experience. Who is this program for? I would say decision makers, leaders, and individual contributors. They could be working in large billion-dollar organizations. They could be working in startups. They could be from the technology function. They could as well be from the non-technology functions such as marketing, finance, HR, product, design, etc. I would say anyone who's interested in understanding AI applications for business impact and transformational projects. Importantly, the course does not require any programming or computer science expertise and is designed to introduce the basics of AI to anyone, whether you have a technical background or not. Remember, AI is not magic. It is not rocket science either. Participants in my most recent masterclass interventions around the world, they've been top C-suite leaders at industry chambers, at Ivy Leagues, and or they have also been school children, all benefiting from what AI could do for them. Well, we all know about the AI tsunami, the AI apocalypse, the AI revolution in the making. So AI is the new electricity. It is one of the greatest challenges and one of the greatest opportunities of our lifetime. I guess there is unanimity of opinion around the world that those who harness the power of electricity and automation ruled the first half of the last century. And those who harness the power of computing and that of the internet ruled the second half of the last century and the early part of the 21st century. I guess the leaders of tomorrow will be people who understand what AI could do for them and not necessarily be wearing AI techie hats. AI is the kosher game changer. Now is the right time to board the AI bus. I look forward to seeing you soon in my exclusive, awarded, and internationally recognized program on demystifying artificial intelligence, essential AI for everyone. Friends, Romans, and countrymen.
One of the platform. Yeah, Learn IT, Learn AI is a very good platform for especially even for the kids. I sign up for my two kids. They have completed the four certification before the school starts, and I think they roughly. But then I took a professional one. It's so hard. Like they are even teaching the Python coding as well, and coding also they are teaching. It's a free database, free. It's a free so far. There is a you can go for another premium level